Yeah, good evening, everyone. Good mornings for some of us who are listening in the morning, different parts of the world. Good afternoon, good whatever time of the day it is. I'd like to welcome you to Papa Bear this evening. We are here on Straight Talk, here to do part two of a very interesting conversation that we started last week about raising boys. And I have my peeps with me, my homies, these dads of young men who are walking this journey with me, raising young boys. And yeah, we had an interesting conversation last week. I think just for the record, we'll just go around and just do just a quick round of intros. As usual, we'll go alphabetically. So usual, Jemo is usually number one. You're the first person in our list. Index
Yeah,
one.
thank you so much. My name is Jemo Salamba. I am happy to be among these great men. And I think after last week, it's interesting how God worked in what we talked about last week, and we hope that He can continue to use us in this space and time. Thank you so much.
Okay, awesome. Kirago?
Kirago Sangale Ngunya. I'm happy to be out here again with my brothers. Just to give some insights from my experiences as dads of boys on this very important topic of raising boys. Thank you.
Okay. Next, Marlon, I think, is next alphabetically.
Right. I hope you're all well. My name is Marlon, and I'm also very excited to be part of this and just to share from my heart to you my experiences as a father. Thanks.
Okay, awesome. And then last but not least.
Yes, my name is Ozzy Kiveu Ngome, and I'm also very glad to be part of this team, or not call it team, brothers, and we just to talk about heart to heart about raising boys. And I'm so glad for this session again, and to speak out and just hopefully that we will be able to impact or encourage someone on this journey.
Oh, cool. We call Ozzy Mr. Ngome because he's a big baller. But he's humble, but he's a big shot. So,
No.
Mr. Ngome, thank you for giving us your time, and yeah, that you could make time for us.
We are
humble
humble.
servant of God. Humble servant of God. Humble servant.
We're humbled by your presence, sir.
Yes, sir. And yeah, you guys know me. My name is Mongera Mutiga. Yeah, I'm also humbled to be part of this process. Started this platform on fatherhood a couple of years ago, and since then we've had some amazing conversations about fatherhood. And today's topic is especially exciting to me because as a father of a young man, I think it's something critical for all men to listen in on. So if you're listening in, please tag your friends, tag everybody you know out there who needs to hear this conversation. You have any questions, please plonk them in. This is streaming live on Facebook, so plonk your questions in on the chat box there, and we'll be able to pick them up and chat and see how to handle these issues. So last week we started this conversation about raising boys, and we talked about a number of things about how boys interact. We talked about traditions, we talked about culture, and how culture has affected upbringing of young men when we were growing up, when our fathers are growing up, and how we are raising our sons, and what that means from a cultural perspective. We had a talk just offline with this group of men, and we're trying to think about what's next. What else can we talk about? And one of the things that we thought about was the issue of relationships and how the different relationships in a boy's life shape how he grows. But no man is an island, no boy certainly is an island, but he's part of a network of individuals, and all these people have an influence or a bearing on his life in some way. So I thought we could tackle that as sort of like our first question. And to be specific, I wanted to ask about the network of boys or young men that are around our sons. Yeah, growing up, we grew up as a group of people. In Kenya, we call those akirende. Well, that was back in my day. We grew up as young boys as a group, right? Kirago, I can see you shaking your head. Kwanza, now that you've tortured, you're going to answer this question. How do we deal with that? I mean, as young boys, we see the point, we see the value in working together as a group, that men generally bond, engage, open up when they're doing things together, when we work together, when we do life together. What does this look like for young boys, and why is that important for young boys, for those fathers of young boys? Kirago, what do you think?
Thank you, Mongera. I think for one, boys and men actually crave these relationships. It's something that's very important to them, like you've alluded to already. I think when guys are in a group, that setup, that environment allows them to more or less be themselves, to they have their support system, they're able to their fights, there's actually a lot of head to head sometimes causes some discomfort, but the outcome of that is that these young men, these boys come out being more responsible for their own actions. For one, there's a lot of value that can be derived from the relationships. Again, very important that the relationships are the right ones, because they're also the wrong groups that my young man can be involved in. Something probably I'll touch on a bit later. Empowering these young guys. My son. Let me speak from my own experience and what I'm trying to do in raising my boy. Is trying to arm him, or rather give him the tools to be able to identify the relationships that will add value to his life. So to answer your question, yes, these relationships are critical. I think we've seen that men in their relationships can be surprisingly deep, contrary to popular belief. They can be very, very deep. A lot of men, use these groups as their support systems. I think generally it's said that men aren't very vocal about their feelings, emotions, and so on and so forth. These are sometimes voiced in other ways, but if you scratch the surface, if you're that tight, the surface is scratched, you'll probably get to the root cause of some of these issues or some of these problems, and work on starting to fix them and support the individual that is struggling with the problem. So yes, the long and short of it from me is yes, these relationships, it cannot be overemphasized how important they are, and I think they should be encouraged. And if you have boys, if you have sons, kids generally, but we're here talking about boys, it's something that should be nurtured and encouraged. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that you're a little bit more vocal than you are last time, Kirago, because as we know how you are. I don't know why you were acting so nini last time, but anyway, it's okay. You'll warm up. It's fine.
We are giving Marlon his time to shine.
now that you've thrown the ball to Marlon, what do you think? Why is it important that our boys have a group of boys around them? Is that important? First of all, do you agree?
I think yes. I'm going to give two examples so that I don't outshine Kiragu. So there's two examples I'm going to give. Last weekend, my daughters got invited to a birthday party, and I happened to be the parent who was taking them there. This was a village market. My son happened to come along with me because the plan was to drop the girls and then go off with the boy. We go do our own thing. When we got there, the parents of the girl insisted that no, the birthday girl insisted no, she'd like everybody to stay. And the reason they were actually insisting that we stay is because they also had a son. And the son had been invited, and he had become miserable and grumpy and grouchy because he was the only boy among, I think, about 6 girls at that point. So they were quite happy to see him. In fact, he walked up to me. Their son walked up to me and said, "I hope your son is staying." So I was like, no, we're supposed to be going. And immediately his face fell, and I could tell this was important for him. So that's one example I'll give. The other example I want to give is that I was in Gikomba at some point during this week. And when I got there, I went looking for a couple of things. I have a friend there who does some business. And so I just gone to check out a couple of things there. What amazed me is when I just sat at his shop and looking at the guys interacting outside there. It's if you've been to Gikomba, it's open market, it's crowded, it's not the cleanest, people are everywhere, it's noisy, spaces are small because people are selling stuff from everywhere. And the most amazing thing was how the men who are doing business were interacting with each other. They were like small kids, chasing each other here and there, pretending to have a fight, and you could see how much they were enjoying it. What struck me though was how much I enjoyed watching them, because they reminded me of things I would want to do, but my circumstances, whether it's business or where I live, some of those things don't exist. You only get them downtown. But this is the thing. I was connecting with them because I was raised in such an environment. So when I saw them do these things, I can relate without having anyone to explain to me. So there's something Kiragu said. Men's company is important, but it also matters the type of company that you keep. Because a lot of the friends I grew up with, unfortunately, many of them are dead. Crime, alcohol, drugs, and many other things. So it's also important that you keep the right company, but I think male company is extremely critical. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if you have anything to add. Let me go to Jemo. Anything to add to that whole group dynamic where boys are concerned?
Yeah, I think there's a reason why that phrase or statement, boys will always be boys. And basically it summarizes so many things about the dynamics of men and boys relationships, right? So it doesn't matter if you are 100 years old or you're 5 years old. You can see the interaction between the men and the boys, the old men and the old boy and the young boy. It's the same. We all become equal when we are interacting, when we are engaging, when we are having conversations about different things, whether it's sports, whether it's a fight, watching a fight, whether it's so that bonding, that connection equalizes us. It's like a lawnmower to all whether you're rich or poor, or it's interesting enough, like when we were growing up, one of the most interesting things we would observe is when the dads would go get their newspaper Saturday morning. So they wake up asubuhi, they go to the shops to get the newspaper. But that newspaper trip was more than 2 minutes. And the shops were not so far. It was like a 5-minute walk maximum. But the guy will be there for like an hour or two, because basically he's engaging with other men and just talking about anything from politics to sports to just anything. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be a simple conversation, but that connection is a very strong thing. The other thing is the activities. So we don't just gravitate towards doing nothing, but we gravitate to each other because of doing something concrete. And I think that's why the dynamics of what Kiragu and even Marlon have said is that if you engage with people who are into crime, people who are not balanced and stuff like that, then yeah, you accelerate there very quick, because men have a way of influencing each other more than people actually believe they do. But I think that it's important that the relationships are solid, they're there, the bonding, the connection, and just the simple things in life we need to look out for, and especially in these times. So I think that's the only thing I could add at this time.
Okay. Thanks for that. Ozzy, anything you want to add to that, Ozzy?
Yeah, I think for me, yeah, of course, it's to support actually everybody's sentiments there, which is true. As men, when it comes to just bonding and interacting, we don't draw lines, but at the same time we draw lines. And for me, I think that way in the sense that we draw lines in the sense that we will not bring things that will necessarily make people have grudge that separates us. But at the same time, we don't draw line because we interact freely, you know. And so the bond is so easy that you can end up like people can interact easily on issues and matters, and that freedom that creates by just being boys or just being men, you know. And I've found that even in my life experiences when I interact with Jamaat, somehow, even if you have personal issues that you might be facing, you realize that when you just meet with boys, you just like, you know, let's just talk. Let's just speak what's the current issue or what is it. There's just that liberation, that interactions that do not really brings a lot of boundary, but just let's just talk. And that's the one that brings also the influence, as guys have said here, it brings that influence. You can be influenced easily because there's that freedom to interact and just gain that perspective of just living a life that shows that, hey, we are men and we face life, the same issues that we face day in, day out, but yet we still are making a strong bond as one people. And so I just really support everybody's view on that. And it is really true. Men, boys, we just like being, having that bond together. And I will encourage that also for my son that, you know, establish people, but people who, I mean, friends who will not influence you in a wrong way, but have a company of men. It's a good thing.
Yeah, I think society, to some extent, has put us in a place where, oh, here I go. Oh, okay, these are things. Okay, you know, the society has put men in a place where it's almost frowned upon when you see men together, when you see guys doing stuff together. Sometimes society makes it look like, you know, these guys are up to no good, or they're being mischievous, or they are encouraging each other to do the wrong stuff and all. But you know what I'm hearing us say is that, you know, for us, part of what shaped our personalities and our values was the thing that we shared with our fellow boys or fellow men. And even now as adults, there's a certain level of interaction that's required for us to function and to be effective and to grow and really rub off of each other and to influence one another. So I think to everyone who's listening, I mean, you know, if you have sons if you have little boys in your life, or if you have young men in your life, we need to encourage them to get into groups that are positive, that influence each other in a positive way. I think that's really the trick. How do you get the boys into those groups that are positively influential and not into crime or any sort of bad influence? I think that's really sort of like the trick that we have to meet as men, right? How do we make sure that our boys are, yes, working together with their peers, but they're doing so in a way that is positively reinforcing and not you know, a downward spiral? And you know, I want that sort of leads me to the next question about you know, the statement that somebody, I think it was Jemo, said that, you know, boys will be boys, that this is what boys do. How do we get society to understand that you know, we need boys to grow up to be boys? We need them to be men. We need them to be who they are and not to grow up in the image of somebody else who does not exist. We're living in a society where there's a lot of boys who are growing up without the experience of a father or a father figure, without somebody who looks like a man to them. And so their notion of masculinity is colored by that experience. So my question is, and maybe I'll start with you, Jemo, what do you think about that thing of how do we get the society to see boys for who they are? That boys are energetic, they're excitable, they like to do certain things, and some things may be looked at as childish, but that's who boys are. How do we get people to understand that boys will be boys, and that's not a bad thing?
Yeah, I think you know, just as I answer that, you know, when there's a vacuum, boys will be up to no good. You know, that's another familiar saying and stuff for that. And I think it's about putting structures in terms of what could they be engaged in and who are they engaging in. So for example, I'll give you an example. like in the estates or the environments that we're living in now, everything is fenced in, you know. We are inside the homes, we have fence outside, we have electrical fences, we have, you know, there's no area or spaces that are designated for people to actually release their tension and that adrenaline and things like that. So I believe that one of the things is that people can do is sport. Sport is one of the most connecting, energy burning activity. So the sports could be ranging from many different types of sport. So it doesn't have to be just one type of sport, but it could be just some sort of physical sport. So exercise, getting healthy, mental health. And that's why guys like muscles, they like strength, they like aggression, they like muscle cars, speed, and all those things. So it's about getting kids also involved in sports. And that has worked for me. And personally, I think if I didn't have sport in my life, because I'm one of those uber energetic, and of course you guys have met my kids, and you know there's a lot of energy and stuff like that, and you can imagine holding that in. So if I was not doing you know, gymnastics, I was playing basketball, I was playing handball, I was, you know, doing something that was positive and took my mind off things. And you will notice that guys who are into sport, they consume their time with that. They will not have so much time to dwell in other negative things, you know, too early, because you're consuming that, you're researching, you're looking more, how can you improve that game? How do you improve yourself and things like that? So I think one of the things I would say is sport. Of course, I want to make sure that everybody else also gets a chance to pick on other things. But I think for me, having sport in life is really, really important. And let's not overparent, because I know our wives and mothers loves us so much that they don't allow us to get hurt. And I think that's something that is not good. But if you see boys, even when they meet, they want to show each other, you know, the scars that they have. Unajua hii nilipata wapi? You know, this one, I got this one when I was jumping from the roof to this other side. And they'll share stories around that. So I think let's not overparent and allow boys to be boys. And yes, there will be some injuries, but I think sport is a critical part to make that bonding come together. I think I'll stop at that.
Yeah, you know, there are things we tell my folks today about the things we did when we were kids, me and my bro, and you know, they can't believe it, man. They're like, Yanni, how did you guys did what? And you know, they didn't know. We're telling them now as adults, like 30 years later. But I think if we had told them at the time, they probably would have been serious repercussions of equazos. So I think there's a sense in which Yanni, boys have a sense of adventure that needs to be released, and they're just allowed to explore, to get injured, get hurt, even you know, go through the motions, whatever it takes. But that's part of exploring. That's part of being male, being a young boy. I don't know, Ozzy, if you have anything to add to that.
Yeah, and for me, it's just to look at it from a point of just the current life that you're having with the boys, and let's be honest, tech life has consumed our environment. You know, gaming that can make you just spend time in the whole day in the room and play those gaming that can really cut off those physical interactions with men. Social media, you know, you can say play game, but I want to play that, you know, that game on the computer and not interact with people. So life has changed. Okay, I can remember when I was young, we used to make those cars with wire, you know, the wires that you make the cars and all that, or you can even create yourself and make those football with polythene paper and you know, and a string, and you go out and you play, you know, do a lot of somersaults and stuff. The brain was engaged, and there was no room that you were given, in the sense that you will not use your creativity like there's no room that you're not given that you not use your creativity to bond with other guys. But in the tech life right now, I mean, things have changed. And so being deliberate on that is important, because I came to realize, even as we are raising sons, you realize that you yourself, you're consumed with jobo, with work, but even the type of job you're doing, it might be a job that makes you keep you on a comp or something. So just to serve as an example, even as men and fathers, we need to really just be deliberate and get out there. What is that kabake ball or basketball that you can play out with your son? And just to show them that there is option. I mean, Jemo has mentioned about football. We need to be deliberate on that so that we end up showing them that, hey, it's not bonding through tech life and playing all this game and not bonding with other men. You know, we have options, but it's us to show them also as an avenue, because the platform is totally different from a platform where the days we were, you know, it's totally different. That's just would be my advice on that.
Yeah. Kiragu, do you have any feedback? You're hopping in and out before we lose you again. Nebu, you want to say something?
No, it's another lamp here that keeps disconnecting from the socket. Anyway, I just like to reiterate what James and to a smaller degree Ozzy have said about the role of sports and its influence on young men. I mean, from a personal perspective, I've been involved with sports for a very long time. I think from primary school, it was swimming, football, and this is at a competitive level. And I think high school was more basketball, a bit of rugby. And after high school was basketball, and then now more seriously into rugby. And I mean, the role that sports can play is very important. One, because especially as you graduate into, you know, performance sport, and you know, where results are, you know, it's competitive and the results are required of you. There's really no time for any negativity or negative influence, because it's a very disciplined environment. You're expected to eat in a certain way, you're expected to sleep at a certain time, you're expected to, you know, so it's you know, the wheat is separated from the chaff very quickly. Yeah, even at very early stages. Even you'll find that under sevens football, under 12s and so on. I mean, the guys who are not up to it, they'll probably go and start doing other things. So sport is fantastic. I mean, I cannot emphasize enough what sport has done to me. I mean, even now, because of my experiences then, I have maintained some of the same friends, a core of friends. I mean, apart from you guys, I have maintained a healthy lifestyle. Yeah, simply because of my involvement in sport. Yes, so any parents up there that are dabbling with the idea of getting their sons or daughters into sport, please go ahead. Please go ahead. You shall be pleasantly surprised. Yeah. Yes, let me stop there for now. Marlon, I can see, is itching to go.
Please go ahead.
How did you know? How did you know?
Go right ahead.
You're
go right ahead. Go right ahead, Marlon. Tell us what's your take on this sporty thing? I think out of everybody here, I think I'm probably the least athletic. You guys are all like serious athletes. So Marlon, what do you think? How do you think of this whole thing, the sporty thing, and what we talked about boys being boys?
Okay. So first of all, I think the sports angle is very critical. I was very athletic from when I was young, and I was always engaged in sports. So when people were sneaking out of high school and getting involved with alcohol, I couldn't, because I needed to be sober. I needed to have my wits about me. So it was very important for me to be involved and engaged in the sport. So I stayed in school, even when guys were busy doing other things. But I want to mention something else. I want to mention, number one, the role of a parent in all this. So first of all, the reason why a couple of I didn't end up in the same situation or scenario, but quite a number of my friends that I grew up with ended up, is because I was moved from where I was living. I was moved. So the environment where I lived, I ended up going to live with some cousins and uncle. They thought differently, they did differently, they acted differently. So what happened was I ended up picking up more of their habits, which are very positive, and they've enabled me to do very well. And for that, I'm very grateful. And I want to also mention that the role of a parent in helping to guide what kind of relationships the boy ends up with. I mean, having you guys as my friends means that your boys have more or less the same values mine will have. So when they say, I want to go and play with my friends who are your children, it's very easy for me because I already have a group of friends, male friends, who are raising children in the same way I would. And so it makes it very easy for my child to have the same values reinforced by somebody other than me. And they can build relationships that are good, that are strong, that will nurture them because of the friends I, as a parent, keep. Number two, the other thing I would say is also in terms of the involvement, you get involved in. So let me say this for now. I've actually joined the choir in church. And I remember the first time I mentioned this a couple of times, I had some strange stares like, choir, why are you going to the choir? Because I wanted to teach something about service to humanity, service to God. And so it has forced me to take my kids, other than send them, I'm setting the example by being there with them. And they can be involved in these activities and serve God and serve humanity with their voices. And I am part of that journey. So what I'm saying here is, as a father, also get involved in the things that you would want to set up as an example so that your kids can be inspired to want to do these things. They will rarely say no when you're also there. They will rarely say no when you're there yourself. Yeah. Oh, and yeah, let me tell you that then the reason why I was saying that, because in those environments, what happens is they end up making friends as well. Those friends, it's highly unlikely you will take your kids to somewhere that is detrimental to them. Highly unlikely. And if you do, maybe you need to think again. But highly unlikely you will go and expose your children to see you do something that is detrimental. So what happens, I think, you being there and other parents who feel the same and think the same, bringing their kids there, means that the values and the thought process are not too far apart. So in the end, you're sharing something with them and with other parents that will help to build their lives better. So that means they can form friendships from those circles that are beneficial. I don't want to go on and on. I could preach and ask for an offering. So I don't want to make you guys have to check an offering. So yeah, maybe somebody else can chip in on that as well, on a point I've just raised.
Yeah, it looks like our moderator has dropped off.
Yeah.
Yes. So I think everyone has had their part to say. Very importantly, I think as a group,
Are we resetting, Kiragu? I think we are resetting in our heads. How do we go about this now that the moderator is gone?
Me, I'm just going with the flow, but now this is what I do.
Let's go with the flow. Let's go with the flow.
He's back. He's back. He's back.
Baba, while you are away.
Mongera, I've taken over your job.
Yeah.
Baba, while you are away. People try to take over, one.
Yes.
You're on mute, Mongera.
There was a coup while I was away, yeah?
While you are away, Baba.
And you know, Mongera, Kiragu is an IT expert, so I think you could drop, eh?
You know what has happened? Imagine my comp has gone haywire. My laptop has just gone haywire. It's frozen. Just went quiet. So I don't know. Anyway, I'm on my phone. So we'll just continue.
Okay.
I think you guys can hear me. So I think we should be okay. Yes, I missed like most of what Marlon was saying, but it's been recording, so I think it's not a problem. We will just catch up on it. We've talked extensively about this issue of boys sort of needing a group of men around them. But there's another relationship that I think is very important for men to have, or rather that boys have growing up. And that's the relationship they have with their mother, or with the women who are helping us to raise these boys, right? I think one of the some of the conflict that comes up in raising parents is the issue of how do we ensure that we're on the same page with our wives in terms of raising these boys. And in many cases, that's not the case, right? You don't always have the same direction. Women want to protect the boy, you want to toughen the guy up, and all of that. So I just wanted to talk about that. And I don't know what you guys think about the idea of, or what happens when you have conflict in terms of how you raise these boys with your significant other, and what can we do about it? What can we do to make sure that our wives are on the same page as us? We want these boys to be tough. We want these boys to survive in life, because life is not easy. But our wives might have a different perspective. They also have an experience of their own, with their own siblings, their own father, and etc. So what do you guys think? Maybe I can start with you, Jemo. What do you think about that?
Well, that one is a tough one to answer in 1 minute. Just simply because when I think sometimes it's misunderstood when men say certain things, it means that we are negating the role of women in the life. It's very critical. That's why they always say boys will marry their mothers and the girls will marry their fathers, right? So, and why is that? What is the dynamic that we are seeking in those relationships? Because they give you the first impression of how to deal with the opposite sex, let's say emotions. The role of mothers in boys' life is actually just getting them connected to the emotional side of things, being able to process things and understand critical mass. Like for my house, I think there's that trying to make sure that our son is always aware of the sister being around, because otherwise he'll trample over without really paying attention in terms of his strength or what he needs to do fast or what he requires. And I think the emotional side of it. But how do you do it? How do we come together? I think this is where, as a Christian, I would say, I think having the Christian values and understanding how God ministers and talks to us about how we should have our relationships. One, it says, men love your wives, and women respect your husband. And I think in showing that different ways, the respect and love and having harmony in that relationship, I think the kids, the boys and the girls in the homes, they learn to see how that dynamic should work. And I believe that if that foundation is the pillar of the marriage, where love and respect is honored well, then I believe that you will be on the same page, because you'll use the foundation that the Bible talks about in any relationship. And I think also just how do we love our wives? There's a whole process of showing love. The other thing I would say is that, the whole thing about men showing leadership, offering security at home and security in all senses, in all aspects, I think it's also something that is very important. Like I said last week, men should show up in all roles that you are supposed to show up. I'm one of those guys that don't mind changing diapers when the kids are small, because then you get to have that interaction and the bond, and it doesn't become, it's a female role when you do that. So it's important that you share roles, you work together, you have a way of communicating and engaging with each other with respect and with love. And I believe that is one of the winning formulas of having, we show by, we do, and we show by doing. I think that is something that would be important to me.
Okay. Thanks for that, Jemo. We had this conversation some time back, and without going into the details, because for the guys watching, the five of us get into some very controversial, very deep conversations, and we say things that cannot be repeated outside of those walls that we talk in. But just to touch on it, and I think Marlon, I know you have. I don't know if I can call it a passion about this issue of the sort of like the influence and the role that mothers play in the whole raising, and how that role interacts with the masculine or the father's role. I don't know if you wanna touch on it a little bit without getting too controversial.
Well, sometimes controversy is not too bad, I guess, because it also helps people to rethink some of their beliefs and values, and hopefully they come out on the other side with a more clear picture. So I remember having this conversation because my son is the last one, and so we've raised girls, and then the boy appears, and I realized his mother's attachment to him was very different to the attachment she had with the girls. It was very different. I could tell that. Surprisingly, she was more protective of the boy than the girls, which I found very odd. So at some point I realized I'm also thinking as a man. Yeah? Protect the woman, protect the girl, protect the boys, sort yourself out, find your way around. If you need help, cry. If I'm able to, sure. If I can't, well, sort yourself out. But for the girl, I was looking at it from the perspective of this could be my mother, my sister, like that. So the emotions I have towards my daughters was very different from what I had towards my boy. So we kind of pulled in different directions. But one of the things I asked my wife one time was this, and I took a risk, and I was hoping it would come out correctly. I said, "Do you see anything you like in me?" Then I crossed my fingers and said, "Oh, I hope she does say yes." And I said, if you see a single thing you like in me, then allow me to transfer that thing to my son. Okay? You have no idea how that thing is cultivated, or the things that have made me a man or helped me manage my life as it is now were acquired. I can tell you for a fact, and I think maybe this is what kind of caught our attention, that men are made. They are not born. They are made. And depending with what you want to pass on, he'll either become a successful man or he'll struggle to be a man because he had too much protection around him. And after a couple of stumbles, it became easier. She allowed him to climb up the seats that the girls never used to, and did a couple of stunts that, she was like, oh my God. Until I relax, he's being a boy. If he drops down and falls, he'll get injured, but he'll wake up knowing that's dangerous. Next time I need to be careful. These are the things that help men begin to build boundaries in their lives and control themselves. Otherwise, if they do not learn some of those self-control measures, it can become a nightmare.
Okay. There's a couple of comments coming through on the chat, and I think some of them relate to what we're talking about right now. And someone is asking, maybe I can big up Diana Muhoro. Thanks so much for tuning in, Diana. Diana is asking, how does the role of a dad play when it comes to hygiene with boys? Asking from a teacher's perspective. I assume you're a teacher, Diana. I think sometimes the society, Jemo, this is someone you know, huh?
Yeah, I know Diana. She's a precious friend and family, actually. Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah, thanks for support, Diana. Thanks for tuning in. So the question she's asking is, what's the role of the dad? I mean, it seems like, and I think if I'm hearing you correctly, Diana, the wider question is, where is the society laying certain roles on the mom and not on the dad, and vice versa? Yet these are things that affect the boy uniformly. So, I guess it's a question around societal expectations around, roles. Jemo, you seem to be chomping at the bit for this one. You want to try and tackle this one?
Yeah, but this one now can go the controversial way a bit.
Tell us.
It's an assumption that hygiene is really keen on the female side than it is with the men. I know men here who fold their t-shirts
and iron them and iron them too.
Iron them and keep them
We're
very
not mentioning
clean
names.
and neat. We're not mentioning any names, but we know ourselves.
Yes.
But I think it's a role that also fathers play, and I think it's more and more so happening now than it. I don't want to say it never used to happen, because I remember even when we were growing up, when we used to go to shags, my grandfather was a very quiet guy, and he used to have a shop, and you'd sit there in the front, and you'll make sure we sweep the whole yard. When we go there, we pick the leaves, we do everything, and it's almost we pack a Vaseline to that grass, and it's nicely manicured. And that was his thing. He made sure that usafi is there. So I think by doing also they whatever. So I think men should pick more of that, but I don't think it's a good assumption that men are not hygienic and things like that. Yeah.
Okay. I think there's this general perception that things to do with hygiene are taught by the mother, that the men are generally not so concerned about these things, and so therefore the role of teaching hygiene falls to the mother. I think that's the assumption which we're saying is not true, because like I personally know all you guys are very clean, orderly, neat guys, and I'm sure there are many other men out there who are the same. So it's not necessarily the case that all families that's the case. I think, and we talked maybe briefly about this last time, the whole idea that the society then has roles, definite gender roles, which may or may not be applicable, and which we apply in a blanket manner to a whole family, yet the family itself has a different direction and different ways of applying those roles. So I don't know, Kirago, you wanna mention something briefly about that? We're running really low on time, so I'll just give you a few minutes to talk about that, then we need to start winding up.
We're still on the hygiene question, or on the more general question on women and their role in raising sons?
Yeah, both, either or both. I'm actually interested more in the gender role from your perspective, actually.
Oh, okay. That's a good one. I'll speak to my situation and how things are done in our home now. We have two kids. Firstborn is 8. Secondborn is 3.5 now. Secondborn is the boy. And for both kids, I think we have more or less shared the responsibilities, diaper changes, showers, and so on and so forth. There's been no real line in the sand, as in this is what she's doing, this is what I am doing. So yeah, that's how we've done it. That's how we've raised these kids. We've not shown them that there are certain roles that are solely cut out for mom. I'm also in the kitchen occasionally being the operative word. But they see me in the kitchen cutting onions, cooking. They see me choma, they see me running around doing all these things, which isn't necessarily what I saw when I was growing up. Yeah. So I'd like to think that my children are growing up, seeing that there's certain things cut out for dad only, certain things for mom only, that kind of thing. So yes, this is how I am intentionally trying to raise my children, my son. Yes, I think that's it. Okay. With regards to the question on hygiene, now I did not quite understand that question, to be totally honest. Are we speaking about hygiene, influencing our sons' hygiene practices, or are we just dirty guys generally?
No, I think you got it right.
We leave it to the women to run with it. Is that what we are saying, or that was the question?
No, the first
bit. Okay.
Yes.
Then Yeah, then I tend to agree. I mean, I agree with James in totality. Then it is something that I think all dads and father figures out there should be actively involved in. I mean, I fail to understand why you'd leave it to your significant other or the woman in your life to run with it. And you're there. If you're able, do it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think it's you know, it's a good way to look at this. That these are practices that we have. Part of raising sons is passing on what we know, what we do, how we do things, and not just expecting them to go figure it out. The world will teach them. I mean, if there's a way that you do things, if there's a way that you like to fold your shirts, if there's a way that you like to iron your shirts, you know, we lived on our own for a long time before we got married. And so there are certain practices that you have. And even as you've gotten married, there are things that you do. You like to shine your shoes in a certain way. There's a way that you like to arrange things. Why not pass those on to our children, right? Show your son that this is what I like to do. This is how you shine a pair of shoes. This is how you tie laces. This is how you fix things. I think someone has alluded to that, a question in the chat box about that. Just the whole idea of being deliberate about passing on some of the practices that you have as a person, right? Think of this little boy as your own little apprentice, and show him how to do stuff. Take him around with you. If there's a way that you like your car washed, take him to the car wash and show him this is the way cars are washed. This is what should be done. This is how. So there's a certain level of almost apprenticeship that we need to start applying to our sons, so that we are practically engaging them and, you know, deliberately passing on these skills. We don't just sit back and hope that they're watching and we'll catch something. You know, we're deliberately teaching them, showing them, this is what I like. When I do my reports, this is how I like to type documents. This is how I like to arrange things. This is how I like to do my emails. You know, there's a deliberate passing on of information. I think that's a big part of bringing up boys, in my opinion. Guys, we're really, really short on time. I wish we had more time. I'm really hoping that you guys will agree to do this again next Friday. I've already put my pitch out there for the public to hear, for everyone to know that I have officially requested the presence of these great distinguished gentlemen on the panel for next week. But I think we just need just a couple of minutes for us to wind up. Marlon, you want to say something?
Yeah, just on that issue of hygiene, just from what I have seen, just a quick thing I would say is, you know, you can only give what you have, and then boys learn by watching. And I know that women, because of various issues, tend to be generally more keen on detail, especially around the home, the nurturing element. And so you can't take that away from them. I mean, I know for a fact that the woman is likely to be more keen on, you know, hygiene and things like that. But also as a man, you can only give what you have. And I think the challenge for most of us in parenting, every one of us over here will agree to it, is that if one of the biggest challenges with being a parent is that first you have to parent yourself. You begin to realize you cannot tell your son to pick up his socks if you're throwing yours on the floor. You can't. So one of the biggest challenges of parenting is that you have to parent yourself. Your standards have to rise so you can raise the standards of your children. So I think sometimes it's us as men, especially, looking for convenience other than doing the right thing. And we just let the standards drop. And so we find it harder to tell our kids, pick up after yourself, because we don't pick up after ourselves. So you can't quite enforce that. But when we do, and we are able to set the standard, then when you say pick up after yourself, you realize they will do it because they see you do it as well.
Yep. Just for me to add on that.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Ozzy. Go ahead.
That, just to know that these are disciplines that we can really, really make our kids practice. Because don't wait until he's 18 years old to join the military to know that you need to make your bed. You don't have, because you have realized in the military, you have all that. You have to do things in a certain way. But in the military, we have a big chunk of the military is actually men. And the disciplines that are there, they always do things certain ways. And so I feel like it's something that we can inculcate kids at all times, or in the boys, just to know. Hygiene is part of life, and it's a good thing to do. And so I concur with everybody that this is something that we can really, really do and be an example. So come on, when you talk to socks, please, it's better to stop because somebody else will still throw and not expect them to change. And this goes also even to, and let me be honest and be fair, that not everybody is privileged to have a father out there, you know. And on that note, we need to consider that even if you're a mother out there and you're just raising kids or boys by yourself, this is something that you can still have a chance to really, really inculcate in your kids and in the boys that you have, and to know that you can still train them not to really show or cushion them so much, as Marlon has said, emotionally, and not to see the side of them being boys or being men. Allow them to be men, and also expose them to people who can really be like mentors to them and show forth that side of a man. So we still can do even if you are a single mother.
Yeah. Ozzy, I want to just sort of like in winding up, there's a question that came through on the group, on the Facebook chat, and I want you to try and tackle that because I think it's part of what you've just mentioned. And Wandia is asking, she's asking, so are we saying that dads are not supposed to tell their boys how to deal with their emotions? I think it's in reference to a comment that maybe one of us made earlier on. So I don't know, what do you think? What do you think about that, Ozzy? What do we do about boys and their emotions? We're in a space where the whole emotional thing is being linked to mental wellness and mental health. And there's this presupposition that men are suffering mentally because we're not able to deal with our emotions. And I guess I'm imagining the questions coming from there, that, if boys are not being taught how to deal with their emotions, then aren't we setting them up to fail? What do you think about that emotions thing and how we can help them deal with it?
I clearly on that, and I know that's a really tough question to say. So, number one thing that I would say, hey, as men and as an individual, how I handle my emotions, somehow my son kind of picks up on it, and so to that I'll just say that emotions are there, but the way you express them is very, very important. And what I'm just saying is, we don't be an example that maybe to make the boys or the son to die with problems inside. Have the confidence to speak about issues, okay, but still have control of situations. So there's control of situations, and then there's confidence in expressing them. And so if you juggle with the emotional issues on different situations in life, you realize that I will not try to deal maybe the same way that our dads dealt with. They'll just keep quiet over an issue. Just keep quiet about it, not talk about it, and handle it and find your way out. I think the positive side is like I can confidently speak out an issue. So I need to exert control of a situation, but also confidence in speaking on an issue. Let you not die with the issue, but confidently have control and also express it. And it's not wrong to express it. And that's thanks for me. I think I'll just say that.
I think if I just when people talk about emotions, most of the time they have an issue with how men deal or express their negative emotions. How we express anger or sadness or fear or those type of things. And I think it's due time that men are given an opportunity to express fear. It may not be panic, but fear in the sense that, this might be something we need to deal with. And I think also men need the support from the society in itself to allow for that, because it's been very harsh to men and boys in terms of expressing fear or sadness or embarrassment and shame and things like that. And I think that's why it goes back to that thing we started with, that if you have a group of men, a place where you can actually express fear without getting judged, you can express shame without getting judged. So I think it's also that other side. It's like, how do we deal and react to the emotions when they are expressed? And I think even as Marlon just said, we are taught these things, not so much with just our fathers, but the society in general teaches us that, you know what, you are whining too much, or you are, you know, those type of things, the negative. So all of a sudden you realize, for me to be a man, I cannot say this, or I cannot say I failed, or I don't know how to, you know. So I think in handling emotions, yes, definitely men have to take a role, but there's a lot of courage that will be needed, and to allow for that expression to be received in a way that supports you to handle it. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think
Guys,
just
we're
to
flat out of time. Maybe Kirago, you had something to add, and as you do so, maybe you can give like a parting shot. Sorry, because we have to start winding up. So please chip in, but you can also give a parting shot as you do so.
But Kirago, I also have a point. I have a point.
You have a point.
I have a point, Kirago.
Marlon, let's not do this here.
I didn't get in touch with the emotions and allow me to speak.
So anyway, just to answer or to add on to what James and Ozzy have said in answering Wandia's question, I think it is the importance of boys, articulating any issues that we're dealing with, and knowing that they have a support system. All these things come from the home, basically. So we as men raising boys will need to lead by example. For instance, I can't come home, find probably something I didn't want to eat and throw my toys. My son is watching. He's a sponge. He's watching this. Yeah, he's watching this. He'll see how I react. He'll see how I deal with problems, see how I deal with issues, and he'll take it as a norm. Yeah. So he should know from an early age that he can voice his issues. There's a way of voicing his issues, articulate the problem that he's dealing with, and know that he has a support system. I think a lot of us, we, the cliche thing, you fall down, you cry, told you stop crying. It's for us growing up as a male from my generation, at least, okay, our generation, was a lot of that. You couldn't show emotion, and if you even went to the point of being able to articulate your problem, and spell it out clearly, there was a bit of skepticism. You're being looked at. Okay, so what is this you're bringing? You know what I'm saying. So I think let's one. My point is lead by example. Secondly, let these guys know that the support is there. The support is there. You have a problem. This is the first place you're coming to. Don't there's a lot of things out there. They can go astray very easily. Misadvice and so on. Let's not get into that. That was the question. Now on to my closing remarks.
Anything.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Marlon, please.
Thank you, Kirago. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to say something before your closing remarks. What I wanted to say is there's a lot of concern about and I guess the question is coming from a point of a lot of the decisions young men are making in life right now. A lot of things around choosing to get involved in drugs or alcohol abuse, or just at the worst state, suicide, and all these issues being related to men, especially not being able to talk out their issues, right? And I think a lot of it goes to this whole issue of talking. My view, and it's not an expert view, but just my view from the men I have interacted with, is one of the biggest things that boys look for is affirmation and the affirmation of their fathers or male figures around them that matter to them. I was just listening to a story the other day of a guy who was an A student, got a fantastic job, and he got this big promotion, and he's still pretty young. And he calls his dad, who's always busy, and tells his dad about this great opportunity he's gotten. And his dad told him, not now. when he called his dad told him, no, I'm in the middle of something important and I can't take your call right now, and disconnected. What happened was then the boy felt so frustrated, got into alcohol, and then got into drugs, and finally died of an overdose. Brilliant young man, but his life got short. What was the issue there? It wasn't that he wasn't talking. The issue was that he never got the affirmation that he really sought for. That's why you'll find a lot of young boys get into the things we're talking about, companies. A lot of it is around affirmation, a sense of belonging, a sense of importance, of acceptance. And most of this is highly unlikely in a male situation to be exclusively given by a mother. Of course, a mother plays a role, but a big percentage and a big part of that is the affirmation that comes from a male figure you consider to be important in your life. And I think it's so important that we also get the balance, that you as a mother or you as a woman also nurture the role of a man in that boy's life. It's very commonplace now to hear a lot of people and women talk down the role of a man, talk it down and kind of criticize it and think it's not important and it doesn't really matter and I can do this without him. But that's for you. But for your son, the impact it has on him is pretty big. And so I think that's a very important element. Kirago, please.
Okay. We're gonna have to really wind this down. We're already like 15 minutes over time. So Kirago, I don't know if you have anything else to add. I'm assuming, Marlon, that was your closing statement. That was a heavy hitting statement.
I waited to the end because then I know there's no hope for rebuff.
Don't be too sure. Don't be too sure. Anyway, so Kirago, anything? So I'll give it Kirago, Jemo, and Ozzy in that order. Just give your last comments, and then we can wind this up.
Yeah, I guess the importance of what we're discussing and the potential impact it may have is something that's very close to my heart. So I'm happy to be here with you guys as usual, and looking forward to next week. Yeah, thank you. It's been fun.
Okay. Karibu sana, Jemo.
Yeah, because of time, and I do apologize, we've taken longer than we were meant to take, but I think just the importance of the things that we've today is just those relationships, the value that they bring to people's lives, the roles that we can play. Let's all remember those and practice them. And also, I feel like it's important just to mention for those who may not have dads in their homes, that there's many ways father figures can play roles, and it's important to find those, so that actually there's some things that may not be, a simple thing like how to pee standing. It's one of those things that I've been asked before, because the boy was not standing because he sees everybody else sitting. So it's important that we all, so it's simple things that we may take for granted, but they're so critical in terms of defining a boy's life and things like that. So let's be woke and let's get involved, as I said, and engaged as men.
Yep. Absolutely. Thanks. Ozzy?
For me, I just know that we live in a society currently that we are so consumed with many things and we are busy. I mean, calendars are full packed with activities that we need to handle, and just coming even into spending time with our kids or our children, it becomes a tough life. And especially when I look at it in the experience, somebody who is raising a kid as an individual, as kids as an individual, it can be very, very, very demanding. And what does that call for? I'm just thinking that, hey, it needs a little bit of being deliberate and sacrifice from our end as a parent or as parents or a couple, that we say, what are the things, what are the activities can we put in place? What are the things that we need to emulate to these kids to follow? It's just being deliberate, because it's really hard. I'm telling you, there are many people who can be consumed as parents with phones. And how many times have we seen going to a restaurant, you are having phones, all of everybody with the gadgets doing their own thing. I'm telling you, it's very important that we be deliberate and say, hey, we need to have time with the kids, either play with them, either go for a sport, either interact and put away the gadget life and be a good example, show forth example in all the things that we consider good for the kids, and expose them also to, if it's men that are good, can be mentors, do that. And it's something that we need to be intentional about it. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Ozzy. So, I mean, just in winding, in my parting shot is exactly that we need to be deliberate as men, as dads, with our sons. We just don't assume that they're seeing what they're seeing. They will see and they will catch what we're doing. So we have to model the lifestyle that we expect them to live. But we also need to take a step beyond that and be deliberate about passing on the knowledge, the skills, the abilities, the information that we have in a very deliberate and proactive way. I think also we need to get our boys into groups so that they have like a team or a tribe of people around them. Young boys, their age, maybe around the same age, with whom they can grow and have shared experiences together. We have to be very deliberate about who those people are and make sure that those people are people who share our values and are able to, not be a negative influence on them. I hear also that we need to be let boys be boys, allow them the latitude to make mistakes, to get injured, and to go out there and just to be boys, to express that energy, to enjoy their childhood, and not put them in a box the way we would imagine they need to grow up. So lessons for all of us. I think it's good conversations. Thank you guys all for coming in and being part of this conversation. Thanks for everybody who's watching. Everybody's going to watch this after this live event. I hope that if you have any feedback or any questions, please feel free to hit up any one of us. All of us are tagged on that on this video, so you can feel free to reach out to any one of us. If you have any questions, you have any issues, if maybe you're a single mom and you have some questions specifically for any one of us, please feel free to reach out to us. Feel free to follow Papa Bear on social media. We're on all platforms as Papa Bear KE. We're also on YouTube. We have a channel, so this video is going to be on the YouTube channel. But yeah, thank you guys for being part of this conversation. I look forward to part 3 next week, same time, 7 o'clock. I'm going to do this, Kirago. I know you're hoping I wouldn't do this, but I'm going to do it. So be there or be square. See you guys next week on Friday. He's about to walk away. Thanks, guys, for joining in. We look forward to seeing you guys next week on Friday at 7 o'clock. Adiwat Malad?
Jamaa kuja na hizo njugu amekuwa nazo hapo kikula.
Ziko hapa ndo asambazia kwa wiki.
Thanks, guys. Have yourselves a lovely evening and a lovely weekend, and see you guys next week on Friday.
Bye, guys.
All right.